the Northwest Wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine. Living Northwest Wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine. In the Northwest Wild.
Hey, good evening and welcome, Fish on Northwest. Wayne England, Kelly Barnum.
Back in.
Josh, go ahead and throw that on the other camera because I do have Barnum sitting next to me here. There he is.
For once.
Huh? Well, I tell you what, it's nice to be back in the studio, kind of anchored in here, get this evening up and going. This last couple weeks on the road, I'm telling you, it was...
You've been grinding.
Oh, my God. And, you know, it was great. The sportsman shows were great. The people stopping by the booth at both Puyallup and the Northwest Sportsman Show down there outside of Portland last week. Fantastic, but man, exhausting. Yeah. doing the booth is one thing, and interacting with all the folks and talking to folks and helping to get folks unaware of our show to find our show. And we got a lot of new followers the last couple of weeks, which is fantastic. But yeah, just to try to pull that whole show off, you know, and David's availability limited, and Josh doing double duty, taking it all on, and just the connectivity issues. And I'm done with it all. I'm done. It's like we're back here, and we're here to stay for a while. And folks signing on. Hey, Mikey Z's in the house tonight, and we got Jay Sennon, and just all kinds of guys signing on. So glad everybody's joining us. We are back here in studio live, our Thursday night broadcast, and I'm glad to be here.
Nice and calm.
Yeah, nice and calm. So the information never stops flowing, though, man. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, as we do each and every week, right here on Fish Hunt Northwest, live streamed. If you just found us, thanks for joining in, and thanks for talking to us at the sportsman shows, and hopefully you're going to continue to follow us. We are live here every Thursday night, 7 to 9 p.m. out of our studio, live streaming on both Facebook and YouTube. And if you're so inclined, please do us a favor as you're watching here on Facebook, jump over to our YouTube channel, give us a subscribe. Those numbers have been going up, Barn. I'm pretty happy about that. And you'll make sure you never miss an episode, never miss any content that we load up there on a weekly basis. So appreciate you dialing us up. With that, I want to remind everybody that Fish Hunt Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Pacific Commons, located in Puyallup, and of course our good friends over there at Defiance Marine outside of Bremerton, and all the boats that they supply the anglers of Washington State and beyond. They ship them all over the place. You got an Allied series, the Rima, and of course the Defiance, and you have the sales lot and shop, the whole ball of wax there. Those guys are doing fantastic work. And I went and met with Bo Palmer the other day. And that new retro Mustang with the hardtop, the 21 foot, those things are blowing out the door.
Really?
Blowing out the door. I'm on the list. And I'm going to get into it. Maybe next show we'll break it down to get a post out later this week. Getting the Raider up for sale. The 18-foot Raider, the Pro Sport 182. Boat is immaculate. You fished out of that thing. It's a fishy little boat. Time to upgrade, get something out of the Defiance lineup. And so we're going to be selling the Raider, and I'll have more info on that. But Bo's like, hey, we got to get you, we got to figure this out. Select all your options on the boat. We'll get building that thing. But I think I'm looking at September. Yeah. And I just, they just finished the boat show. And I'm looking at September. So what's that tell you? Yeah. So we'll get to that. We got some work to do in that regard. Get that sucker sold and get into that. That new boat would be fantastic. So more to come on that. But lots going on in Barnum. I was perusing around the old website. Actually got out fishing yesterday.
I heard.
Got some steelhead fishing under the belt. Felt good. Didn't put anything to the boat. Jordan lost a couple, but we went out and fished a piece of water that was Yeah, you know, it was a long shot, but it was worth getting out there. Saw one other boat, so you take it for what it's worth. Hook into a couple fish, see one boat. Yeah. That's kind of nice right there. Some of the other rivers, absolutely boiling with fish and boiling with boats and sleds and drift boats and anglers crawling all over the place. But the numbers, I'm here to tell you, have been off the charts and pretty exciting to see after this last high water event and these rivers dial into shape, emerald green, ideal conditions. There were a ton of people calling in sick to work in the last couple days because there's no way there's that many dudes and ladies out there on the river midweek like this, right? So some of these rivers are flat out producing very impressively.
Right. Well, that's a Pacific Northwest fishery thing, right? When the rivers come in, you got to go fishing.
You got to go.
And the weather we had in January.
Yep.
Here's something to think about for January. I had a friend who runs a weather station down in Pacific County, and in January alone, from the 1st to the 31st, at his house, 36 inches of rain.
Are you kidding me?
No. Last 2019, all year, 66.
Unbelievable.
36 inches of rain in 1 month.
So overall, the state received, it was, you know, on average, like the state, it was at 9 or 9.5 inches, which was double of last year, January.
Right.
So it's been wet. We've had no opportunity. December was kind of a bust as the early hatchery fish really didn't show up, but you kind of couple that in with the late, the re-timing or the re-spooling up, I guess, of these early fish. We're not getting as many early hatchery fish planted, so we're not seeing as many hatchery fish returned early on.
Right.
It was concerning, and we talked about it a lot, but I'm here to tell you, man, the rivers are teeming with fish now, which really is going to piss off a lot of people when we talk about what's going on relative to probable pending closures. We'll get to that later on. So make sure you stay dialed up tonight because we're going to cover some of this stuff in depth, and it is, for lack of a better term, it's going to kind of tick you off a bit here.
Yeah,
so
it's going to make a few people mad. Your phone's been blowing up.
Oh, the phone's been blowing up all day. Hey, you covering this on the show tonight? So yeah, we're on it. So with that, a few other things that kind of were unraveled, unveiled this past week as you jump around and try to keep up on everything that's going on. A judge fast tracks the Opening Meeting Act suit. Now, if you remember, have been following us for the last several months, or well, better part of 11 months, we've been trying to keep up on what the Twin Harbors Fish and Wildlife Advocacy Group is up to. And they've been followed that lawsuit against WDFW. We've recapped some of the depositions and declarations that have been provided or submitted in court via court order. We've had former chair of the Fish and Wildlife Commission, Miranda Wecker, had to go in and give a deposition. Pat Patello, former science, hire with WDFW, years of fisheries and science, and just a well-known person in the Northwest, involved in the North of Falcon process, knows that thing frontwards, backwards, the whole deal. Right. He went in and gave a declaration or deposition, and we kind of reviewed those a couple weeks ago.
Right, and they all showed a little bit of frustration with the process.
And unveiled some truth behind the curtain, right? I mean, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, but hey, guess what? You better, because there's some stuff going on there that's kind of compelling. So all this process is up and going, and as of late, the most recent update, you get these on emails if you're connected with their group, but the update number 10, the question the judge focused on was whether or not the Open Meeting Act, the OMA, applied to the North of Falcon process used by WDFW in the salmon season setting process in Washington State. He recognized the lack of legal precedence on the issue. His action fast-tracked the process to have the appellate court provide the answer before rather than after a lengthy trial. So in other words, he's fast-tracking this thing to an appellate court and say, just give me a decision on this thing. I don't want to drag this on for any length of time. Right. Because we are to that point now. It's like, does it fall within the Open Meeting Act or does it not? Yeah. Is North of Falcon to be made or put out there for public watching and scrutiny constantly, or is it something that can continue to go on behind closed doors? The advocacy group legal team is currently drafting the appeal. Now, they would have rather have gone through the process, but they've also gone on here and declared that it's irrelevant. The purpose of the litigation is to determine whether or not the OPMA, Open Public Meeting Act, applies to NOF. And that's really the nuts and bolts of this thing, right? So the fact that they got this thing into court, the fact that it's gone on as long as it has, the hearings, the the top end players that have been involved in this thing are getting pulled into court and, you know, asked under oath to explain this process is definitely something that I thought we would never see.
Right.
Because it's so closed door and so hush hush. And I think I'd mentioned on earlier shows that, you know, 3 years ago, I was down south at a meeting, commission meeting, listened to the Assistant Attorney General of the state of Washington giving his insight on the fact that this doesn't qualify to fall in under Open Public Meeting Act, and here's why. And you walk away from that meeting going, oh, okay, I guess we're kind of, you know, hosed on this deal.
Right.
But for those that kept digging and those involved with the advocacy group to get it done, to get it to this point is like it's like news shattering, right? Yeah. Very curious to see where this is going to go. It's also interesting. A factor was the filing of declarations, as I mentioned. In response to WDFW, WDFW filed a declaration from former WDFW director Phil Anderson himself, who's still very involved in fisheries management with the Pacific Fisheries Management Group and some of the decisions that come out of there, you know, and they're negotiating between Canada and the United States and Alaska and all that. Phil's got his hand in that stuff just because of his years and years of knowledge as director of WDFW. So Phil went on record and actually disputes the two declarations filed by the advocacy group, which he's referring to Miranda Wecker and Pat Patello. So the former director of WDFW is saying, no, that's not exactly true. I don't have any reason to suspect Miranda Wecker and or Pat Patello would be lying or fabricating anything. Right. They were involved in it for so long, as was Phil, but you know, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know.
What do they gain?
Why would they go in and fluff it up a little bit? I mean, and they're under oath. So in rebuttal to Phil Anderson's response, the advocacy filed a declaration from Kurt Smich, the former head of the Department of Game and Natural Resource Advisor for Governor Gardner and Locke, who disputes Anderson's claims. Right. So this is kind of turning into a he said, she said kind of a deal. But I find it interesting, again, that it's at this level in the courts. They're pulling in the big players that have been involved with this stuff for years. And at the end of the day, this is either going to pull the curtain back and allow public persons to sit idle in meetings and listen to how these negotiations go on between WDFW and the co-managers, which would be a tremendous win for Washington State. Right. Tremendous win. Just to simply have that stuff full face value, nothing behind closed doors, and we know exactly how these things unfold. And I think it's a game changer. Yeah. So
I think it's important, and that's been the thing. I mean, as far as the overall sentiment of the users, the fishermen, is they feel there's no transparency. Right. Like, we don't know what's going on. Everything's kept in the dark, and then it's just dumped on us. Yep. And we want transparency. That's all we're asking for.
And, you know, we get there's constant fighting over allocation and all these things, but when I have meetings with folks and they tell me, well, we're trying to come to agreement on preseason forecast. Right. What do you guys use for modeling your preseason forecast? Well, we do this, this, and this. What do the co-managers use? Well, they use this, this, and this. Right. So to even come to agreement at times on preseason forecast, to even begin to negotiate setting of season, it's like how in today's modern society do we not both use objective science-based data that is similar, same, in reaching an agreement? Right.
And if the trajectory of fisheries continue on the path that it's on, which we're seeing a pretty severe downward decline
for the last several years.
Yeah, it's been bad. I mean, this is only going to get more heated and worse.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because we're all fighting over the crumbs of what's left, and we're all unhappy with our allocations and what we're getting, so it's only going to get worse.
When everybody is able to have opportunity and everybody's catching fish, you don't really care if that guy's using a gill net or whatever. Right. You don't care if that guy's using a seine net. You don't care that these guys are hooking and releasing fish. You don't care about what everybody else is really doing because we all feel like everybody's winning. Right. Right? But it hasn't exactly felt like anybody's winning. Don't get me wrong, all user groups need to work collectively to rebound our fisheries. There is no way we're going to get this back on track if it's just recreational anglers thinking we're just going to take ours and, the heck with everybody else. Right. Commercial guys, it's like, nope, we're getting ours, the heck with you guys. if
we
we're
have
not
to
all
start working together.
You have to. We have to. The user groups have to unite and make, help make decisions. So, on a positive note, talking about opportunity. Oh no, let's do this first. Salmon advocates, including WFC.
I know.
We don't talk about them much unless it's in a negative tone.
No,
this is a hard pill to swallow for us, but we're going to do it.
I know. I told you I was going to kind of go through this story and kind of what's up, and I'm going to feel a little dirty while I do it.
Yeah, it's kind of filthy.
Anytime we agree with the Wild Fish Conservancy on issues when it comes to fishing in the Pacific Northwest, you feel a little bit dirty, but I mean, that's kind of the thing when you have multiple user groups that are all looking out in the end. In the overall picture, we're all looking out for the overall health of, Pacific Northwest salmon runs and steelhead runs.
Yeah.
And so you're going to agree on things, even with the guys that I never agree with these guys. Sooner or later, if everybody's running for the same goal, sooner or later, we're going to agree.
Once in a while, you got to go have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Agree and then disagree on a lot of other things.
Right.
Maybe there's that 2 percentile where you're like, well, if they want to fight this battle, then you know what? Go after it. So they, once again, have filed a lawsuit against WDFW.
Yes.
You have some information on that. I got kind of a rebuttal with some information I got today firsthand that's kind of interesting to tie this whole thing together. So
I'm going to kind of go through the cliff notes of the press release from the Wild Fish Conservancy that they threw out on February 11th. Basically, they filed a lawsuit today challenging the January decision by the Washington Fish and Wildlife permitting Cookes Aquaculture to rear domesticated steelhead in Puget Sound net pens. They're basically saying state agencies failed to evaluate the scientific evidence that these fish feedlots would harm federally listed steelhead, salmon, and southern resident killer whales, degrade water quality, and damage the overall health of Puget Sound. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So as we go farther down, and this is where I started to feel a little bit dirty, I'm going to quote Kurt Beardsley, the executive director of Wild Fish Conservancy. It's outrageous that once again the state is leaving the oversight of the industry to the public. After the Cypress net pen collapse, if you guys remember, in 2017, they had the Cookes Cypress net pens collapse.
August of 2017.
Yep, and 250,000 Atlantic salmon were released.
Upwards of 263 is what they've updated their thing now. So 263,000, which, not to interrupt you, but they initially came out and they said about 120, 130,000. Right? Remember that?
So double that number is actually what escaped.
Yep.
Washington quickly stepped in and passed a state law in 2018 banning Atlantic salmon from net pen aquaculture by 2022.
So legislators proposed a bill. They passed it through. Inslee signed it. Right. And you think, oh, this is a great thing. Unfortunately, they only made it to their ability or inability to farm raise anything that's not native to Puget Sound. Right,
exactly. And so with the permit, Cook was able to exploit a loophole that basically allows them to rear steelhead instead of Atlantic salmon. It's pretty easy.
It's called what they are. They're trout.
Yeah, they're
Triploid.
They're rainbow trout.
They're rainbow trout.
Right. So after the collapse, our Wild Fish Conservancy research discovered that nearly every fish that escaped was affected with a pathogen exotic salmon virus that had been undetected by WDFW and unreported by Cook. To kind of prove that point, they go on to say, our litigation has won settlements many times larger than the penalties levied by the state, and the state has left it to us and the pen's neighbors to detect serious problems. So basically what they're saying is nobody caught the fact that all of these fish that escaped were basically sick and diseased. And with a disease that could be transmitted to native species.
Our own fish, yes. Yeah.
So it's very scary when we live in a time that we have so many ESA listed species and threatened species that we're even considering, like we talked about before the show. If we were talking about black rhinos and we were talking about, we're going to do this, we need to catch some antelopes, but in the process of catching antelopes, we're going to kill a few rhinos. No big deal,
No big deal.
People would freak out.
Yeah.
But for some reason, fish, other ESA listed steelhead, Chinook runs, nobody seems to really care if you break a few eggs and make an omelet.
Right.
And it's getting scary.
Well, because so many of our fish runs are in dire straits.
Right.
It's not like we can afford any more outside influences that impact the survivability of our fish. As you mentioned, those fish that escaped all had some flaw to them, some disease little, you know, nuance
pathogen,
that you don't know if they're going to transmit that, or, you know, the big fear was that you would have a handful of Atlantics finding theirs. They have, you know, in multiple rivers, guys were catching them.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing to say that you couldn't get a couple of Atlantics in the Green River and they would, you know, hook up. And now you're spawning Atlantics in the Green River, and that's the farthest thing that we want to see happen. But, you know, so in my mind, and a lot of other folks, it doesn't matter the biomass that's held within the pens so much as the unnatural biomass that it creates around it, underneath it, the pollutants, the feed. We talked about this a couple of times, and how they feed them and all the stuff that goes in the water, and just it creates a false biomass floating, you know, narrative out there. There's just a lot of negativity to it.
And it's important to think and remember, and I like the fact that they use the term feedlot in this, because if you think of it as like a beef feedlot where you're putting, you know, thousands of cattle in salmon, there is major vaccination programs that have to be run, major disease control that has to be run, all this stuff. And with a fish, I assume that's a harder process than with a beef, where you can't run fish through a chute and inject them with
some chickens all, you know, in one big house. There's when disease breaks out, it's serious. You know, so the other side of this that I found interesting when you really dig into this and truly what's going on. So WFC filed their lawsuit, and other partners, conservation groups, and they named WDFW in the lawsuit. When you pull this thing back, Barnum, and dig into it, there are multiple state entities that are involved with permitting this entire thing. And don't expect me to list them all off because there's far too many. But when we're talking water quality issues and a host of other things that could be problematic, first of all, they had to complete 156 scientific-based checklist and qualify for each one of these, check the box, so to speak. So they had to go through that process. And I'm not saying, oh, they got all 156 of them, they get an A+, so go ahead and farm. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is they went through this stringent process to hang on to their $84 million operation. Instead of having to pull stakes and move out of our state for now. As it is, the legislation that was passed enables them to continue to farm Atlantics until 2022. There are 4 major pen floating facilities that are still raising and rearing Atlantic salmon to adulthood right now. They're converting a pen, or all of them eventually to the triploids. If nobody raises an issue about it and nobody gets it back to the legislators to say, no, get away from all of this. The only net pen raised fish in Puget Sound are acceptable are programs supported by WDFW to rear fish to smolt size and release. Whether it's a blackmouth program or with the Orca Task Force and the increase in fall Chinook, we're going to see an abundance of fish raised in pens to smolt and then released out throughout Puget Sound. Not reared to adult size fish for multiple years until they're ready for market. Okay?
But what's interesting, a short stint of time.
WDFW's hand in this entire thing, and this is what blew me away. Their hand in this entire process. So you have the Trout Lodge, which is located in Bonnie Lake, and you have Cookes Aquaculture. So you have the producer and the recipient of said trout. WDFW had to sign off on the permit to allow transfer from the grower of said fish to where it's to be delivered and entered into Puget Sound waters. So their hand in this entire thing is to sign off on a permit that allows that transfer.
Trucking, basically.
From one private entity to another private entity. So the Trout Lodge has done amazing things throughout the state of Washington and rearing millions of pounds of trout. For years, they have a very high success rate in their triploid program, 98+ percentile of sterile fish produced. And we get all that, and they've done a lot to boost the opportunity for trout and triploids throughout the state of Washington. Cannot dispute that. This is their opportunity to make excess dollars from a multi-million-dollar operation out there at Cook, that we're going to purchase how many pounds of, you know, fingerling triploid or whatever size they sell them, so that we can farm these fish. So at the end of the day, this lawsuit, albeit, you know, it is WFC, and that's one of, hey, they want to take that flag and run with it and try to get some action at the state level and turn this thing around. Great, we're all for it. You won't hear us say that often when it comes to the lawsuits that they file against WDFW, but I find it interesting that they named the lawsuit. They named in the lawsuit WDFW. When you have a host of other agencies that should be pulled in on this entire thing.
Right, and I think the kind of the sentiment across most Washington fish, and that's kind of confirmed here. During a public comment period last fall, thousands of Washington citizens and organizations filed comments with the state agency, overwhelming calling for the proposal to be stopped and urging the state to draft a new environmental impact to stop open water aquaculture net pens.
Right.
And so that's Washington State. I mean, the citizens don't want it. I mean, that's pretty clear. And then Washington is the only state on the Pacific coast that permits these facilities. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently announced plans to transition all open water industrial aquaculture in British Columbia to land-based facilities by 2025.
Much like what they're doing in Florida, we talked about a few weeks ago.
So everybody around us is saying no more.
California got rid of them.
Yes.
What we're referring to is inland.
Yes.
Inland, like on soil.
On land.
Farmed fish.
Right.
My ultimate plan is tribal, state government, inland fish farms, subsidized from government, much like farmers.
Right.
So you got some of these farms that are sitting vacant, like when the downturn of all the dairy farms in Washington State.
Yeah.
You got all this land sitting out there that hasn't been bought up yet and turned into homes.
Right.
Find a means of providing enough water, much like they're doing in Florida. Build these monstrous fish farms with the science that's available today. Utilize tribal ingenuity and resources in state government, and let's go fish farming inland on formerly what's looked at as farms. And, you know, it's farming, dude, subsidized by government. I love it.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
it'll never happen, but you know, it's a pipe dream.
Like we talked about with the trajectory of the Northwest fisheries as of the last few years, like that might be the future.
Yeah,
of
it might be.
The masses.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazy idea. I know. This people are going to blow up and go, England, you're an idiot. Yeah, I know. Ask my wife. Okay, moving along. Recent story that came out of the east side. This is really good, actually. The Grand Ronde land purchase and protected. So you got 8 acres of land along the Grand Ronde that was purchased by a consortium of groups, Wild Steelhead Coalition, Empire Fly Fishing Club of Spokane, other ones named. Big thank you to Washington chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Washington State Council of Fly Fishers International, Sage Fly Fishing. And before everybody gets their hackles up, this stretch of river was formerly owned by a private party who wanted to turn it over to WDFW. WDFW isn't in a position to take that on yet, because now you're talking they have to, you know, take care of that piece of land. They have to keep up on the boat ramp. They have to, all that goes on within this stretch of water.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of approvals they have to get before they can just buy a piece of land.
Just take it on, right? So these groups got together, raised the money to purchase this piece of land. Wild Steelhead Coalition is going to hold on to this land for up to a year, and it's going to be transferred then to WDFW. Now, when you read all the players involved here, you see it's heavily invested in by fly fishing groups.
Right.
You would think, oh great, here goes another stretch of river that's going to be fly fishing only, but not the case. That piece of water, that stretch of river as it is now, with all the access and the opportunity and the different options you have for presenting as far as your technique, will all remain the same. Got that from a reliable source today. That stretch of water will basically remain as it is. It's transferring hands. Ownership ultimately would be WDFW as this goes through, but this is a huge win for recreational opportunity. It's a wonderful stretch of river. Got to say thank you to all the groups that jumped in and got this done. Now, if you're not familiar with the Wild Steelhead Coalition, you hear us talk about the Native Fish Society in the WFC Wild Fish Conservancy.
Right.
This is Wild Steelhead Coalition. Now, back when I was doing radio several years ago, John McMillan became a friend and one of the renowned scientists in Washington State relative to in-field research on steelhead. He's the guy, multiple articles have been written on, who basically puts on the mask and the snorkel, gets in the streams, swims with the fish, documents, researches, has done a lot to preserve Olympic Peninsula and the waters that he grew up fishing. Advocate for wild fish. But in conversation with John, who is still the director of science with Trout Unlimited, and they cross over and do quite a bit of work with Wild Steelhead Coalition. In conversation with John, and if I can still pull it up on air, you would listen to him from previous interviews, that he is one to stand up and say, look, it is important to save our wild fish, but it is also ever much as important to provide opportunity for recreational and commercial harvest where it's applicable. Not all rivers need to be deemed as gene banks. Not all rivers need to be recognized as habitat that's our number one goal is to bring wild fish back, right? No, our number one goal is to bring wild fish back and provide opportunity for both recreational and commercial harvest where applicable. When you talk to persons of sound mind with Wild Steelhead Coalition, you're going to find that this is kind of the theme that they are under. They're not filing lawsuits against WDFW. Now they have on a few weird things that went on years ago, but as of late, they're not marching on the front door of WDFW saying stop all hatchery production.
Right.
They're not jumping in bed with that whole concept. Now, a few folks that you may recognize, Chase Gunnell is actually on the director of the board for Wild Steelhead Coalition. Okay. He's communications director for
Conservation.
Thanks you, Conservation Northwest.
Right.
John McMillan, I mentioned. Frank Amato is a trustee. If you don't know Frank Amato, you need to look up a few things in the realm of salmon.
That name should tell you that he might be a little pro rec fishing.
Yeah, Frank Amato is a trustee, right, for Wild Steelhead Coalition. Now, if you go to Wild Steelhead Coalition website, you're going to find under their partners. Their partners are listed: Patagonia, WFC, NFC, and I get that. The rub for me is Patagonia, spent $10 million to help boost the false narrative of artificial, saying hatchery and net pen fish. These topics all tie together. See how this works? Hatchery and net pen raised fish are exactly the same, polluting waters, killing wild fish, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That's why you should have kind of a bone to pick with Patagonia, because they've been putting a false narrative out there to the tune of millions of dollars, falsely educating a lot of folks. Native Fish Society, Wild Fish Conservancy, they also are on board with trying to do away with a lot of hatchery production. That's their MO. When it comes to Wild Steelhead Coalition, it may show them as partners, but the one thing you got to remember is that NFC and who am I talking about?
WFC.
Thank you, WFC. Don't sit down and write policy or give direction to Wild Steelhead Coalition.
Good.
You know what I mean? So they may partner and have same ideology on certain elements of bringing back wild fish, and habitat. You know what I mean?
As I said before, if your ultimate goal is to bring back wild fish, whether you believe in the fact that hatchery fish are going to wipe out the wild fish, or hatchery fish are needed to continue rec opportunities or whatever, if your ultimate goal is to bring back wild fish, both parties, you're going to have some points that you agree on.
Sure.
You may not agree on everything. But you're going to agree on a certain point.
Yep.
And so it's if co-oping here a little bit and mingling a little bit helps to get to that end goal, then so be it. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It is. It's hard. It's really hard. I mean, we're put in that situation all throughout life now, whether it's politics, hunting, fishing. Like, it's hard. It's hard to say, well, just because I don't agree with that one point, you're dead to me.
We can't sit here and say, look, we all need to collectively work together.
Right.
We can't sit here and say CCA, PSA, NSIA, all these organized groups that are all working towards common goals, albeit everybody seems to have a little difference in agenda.
Right.
And we'll try to work on that a little bit. But we can't say, hey, we all need to come together, work together.
Right.
And then go, well, I don't want to work with them because they're a bunch of idiots. Other groups have pretty I don't know, aggressive agendas.
Yes.
And it doesn't always fit within the recreational mindset, and I get that. But it takes a lot of organizations under the umbrella of conservation to work together to move forward and get some things accomplished. And we may not always agree, and actually when it comes to Wild Fish Conservancy and the Native Fish Society, rarely agree with their MO. But when I look at what Wild Steelhead Coalition stands for and the number of things that they're doing in a positive light, and the fact that they want to see opportunity for anglers, recreational anglers, to actually go and fish and harvest fish, and it's not always about catch and release, they're on our side. And we're going to have Chase Gunnell back in the studio next week. There's a lot of things going on. Legislative session is still going. Are we going to get budget for WDFW? We're going to talk about how we break down budget and what that looks like. We're going to talk about some of the success stories on the east side with the under and over passages, kind of an update on that, with the amount of mule deer that are on their winter migration and how successful that stuff is. So we'll get Chase in here next week to catch up on all that. But I just want to make everybody aware that when you read articles and they're written and you see entities named in said articles or partnerships that are recognized, it's not always, so negative and all bad. There's a lot of good coming out of Wild Steelhead Coalition. If WFC wants to file the lawsuit against the net pens, great. Let them do it. And let them get it done.
Yeah.
Let them get it done.
Sometimes when you have common ground, you have to shake hands and agree to follow pursuit on that
to
common
get
ground.
some stuff accomplished.
And then when it goes the other direction on the other things, like, that's not us.
Yep. All right, we're actually kind of right on time here, Barnum. Even though we kind of went off a little rant here, but
we
it's all
started
good.
a few minutes late, but we caught up.
Yeah, we're doing good. So much more to tackle second hour. We got some more topics and hot buttons that we want to bring out second hour. But before we get there, I want to remind everybody we got lots of swag we brought home from the Portland show because Shing bought a ton. We sold a ton, but we still got a lot of stuff left. We're actually going to get our online store up and going here in the next week or two.
Awesome.
And so these new vests that people are all talking about are new shirts with the logos on.
Shirts.
You like these? Yeah. So a lot of this is going to be up for sale very shortly. So all you new folks, and let me tell you, we got a ton of people rocking this thing tonight. Love the fact that it is just blowing up here. Good stuff. Keep it coming. Throw your questions on here. We'll try to answer as many as we can. It's just you and I. It's hard to have dialogue and pay attention to what's going on the board here.
I can't answer questions and communicate with what we're talking about.
No.
Way too many numbers.
We don't have enough estrogen in our blood to be able to do that. So we'll tackle as many as we can at the break here. So we'll jump out for a quick break. We come back. Shane Magnuson? Ever introduced you to him? Okay, buddy of mine for a long time. Upper Columbia Guide Service. He also has Northwest Bait and Scents. Shane does an amazing job over there on the east side, Upper Columbia, fishes all fisheries that he has access to. And up and coming now is the back end of winter as we enter into spring. We got some great Columbia River opportunity on walleye.
Right.
Pre-spawn, we're going to kind of dial that in for people heading from the west side to the east side to go after these phenomenal walleye opportunity on the east side. He'll kind of, get you geared up for how to go about it, how to fish them, when. Some locations, Columbia River.
Right.
And, we're going to talk a little bit about this pre-spawn type fishing, what we should be cognizant of. And we're going to talk limits. WDFW, push through. There are no retention limits for these fish that are considered to be predatory on salmon and steelhead smolt. So we're going to talk limits and some of what the guides are doing over there, specifically what Shane's running on his program, and dial in this walleye fishery, Upper Columbia East Side, with Shane Magnuson. We come back right here on FHM.
Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Whether you are looking for a small skiff to fish the Sound or rivers or a huge offshore tuna machine, Defiance Marine has it. At Defiance Marine, be sure to power your boat with a Honda outboard package. Take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty on your Honda outboards. Our service department is always here to help and serve you as the customer. Did you know Defiance Marine has boat financing experts to help get you the best term rates on your new boat purchase? If you need financing for that new boat, call us today. We guarantee the best price, best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine also carries all the gear that you will need. Everything from auxiliary kicker motors to fishing tackle and bait. Defiance Marine has certified technicians that are top-notch at their job. Some of the best in the Pacific Northwest at evaluating your boat issues and problems. Stop in today or give us a call for all your needs at Defiance Marine.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply Call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
Hey, welcome back, Fish Hunt Northwest. Dwayne England, Kelly Barnum in studio this evening. No in-studio guests tonight, but we got a ton of info to cover.
Yep.
And we got guests on the phone. Yeah, remind me, have you fished walleye?
No. And
Gosh.
all I've heard about for the last 2 months, walleye. And if I don't get to go over and fish walleye.
Well, you can come with me.
Yeah.
Or we can go fish with Shane. Shane Magnuson, Upper Columbia Guide Service. How you doing tonight, buddy? Hey, we're doing great. Just sitting here in studio out of the rain and looking to talk a little walleye with you. Now, you're on the east side setting up. You got one final show that you're doing this weekend, don't you? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I got home from Portland after seeing this last week, and sure enough, one nice day of weather, and today it's back raining. It's going to rain all weekend and kind of bump the rivers back up. So there you go. So when you get home after you're done on your show tour, you get home. Is it time to start fishing walleye? Do you get that going pretty much right away? Right, and how big a stretch of the Columbia are you covering, focusing on these walleye? Well, it sounds like we're working through a technical issue here. We're not able to hear you on the TV, so we will we'll continue the conversation. Hope we can.
Yeah, hope it cuts in there.
Hope it cuts in there. So
you were talking about catching these larger females. What's the average size fish that you're looking to target during this pre-spawn? Oh, wow.
So is the population predominantly mostly males? Are you catching most of those smaller males? And what is the kind of your personal slot limit that you adhere to on your boat, Shane, when it comes to keeping walleye?
they're a smaller fish. But my slot limit's at 15, 16 inch at the small end, up to 22, 23 inch on the big end. Those are going to be your good slot fish, your good eating fish, predominantly males. They're your take-home fish. It protects the small ones that are just coming up that are little, and at 23, 24 inch and over, it protects our big females, which are predominantly our spawners.
What did you ultimately decide? Now, you work with a collection of guys over there, and when WDFW enacted the fact that we're not going to recognize any limits on what we choose or not choose to keep when it comes to walleye, we have a lot of fisheries, obviously, that are struggling, and the last thing we want to see is another recreational opportunity where we have harvest opportunity, albeit if we kind of approach it in a controlled fashion. What's kind of the general rule over there for guys like you guiding, running trips, that you advocate for when it comes to retention for a day out on the water?
I've been kind of refining this over the last few years as this has all gone on, and we're hoping to get more and more people on board with this. But 3 seasons ago, we had a lot of fish in the system that were 14 to 18 inches, and we put a boat limit on a 7 fish limit, or 7 fish per person limit. And, that seemed to be a really good fit, seemed to go pretty well. When we moved on to last year, there wasn't quite as many fish around as there was the year before, and they were a little bit bigger, more in the 16 to 20 inch range. And so I bumped the limit down to 5 per person last year, and now this year there seems to be even a little bit fewer out there, but again, they're bigger. They're more in the 18 to 22, 23 inch. Well, you saw the ones in the tank at the sports shows. Yeah. They're bigger fish. So I bumped it down 1 more fish to 4 fish per person. Really, meat-wise, based on 3 years ago and this year, you're getting the same amount of meat out of 4 this year that you were out of 7 3 years ago. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at there. We're fishing on that same really good brood stock we had 3 years ago, and I'm just hoping we get another good spawn coming up here. I'm trying to police that a little bit so that they do well, and we have some back in the river.
Right. As we're fishing pre-spawn, let's talk a little bit about water temperature. That's kind of ideal and what gets these fish kind of active and feeding, and also technique and approach. Are we trolling upriver, downriver, with current, against current, troll speed, depth of water that I'm going to target? Let's just kind of lump that all in and see what it is that Shane Magnuson kind of looks for when he's targeting these walleye.
Yeah, so when you get to looking at temperature, that 40-degree mark is kind of the 40 degrees and on the rise is the kickoff for pre-spawn bite. They're going to start spawning between 42 and 45 degrees. So as soon as that river hits 40 degrees, these fish are going to start moving towards more current, whether it's towards a dam or towards a tributary, looking for spawning ground and feeding. Now, it's still pretty cold. They're pretty lethargic. So during the daytime, we'll jig a lot this time of year, kind of a vertical jigging, deep water, 30 to 50 foot of water, depending on your current and where you're finding them. Just a nice, easy, slow vertical jigging with a night crawler, 3/4 ounce jig head type of deal.
Gotcha.
But this time of year can also be really good when those fish move up into the shallows at night to not only feed, but maybe think about spawns. They'll move up into 20 foot of water, and then we can pull crankbaits for them if you're into getting out there fishing, night fishing. That's a good way to find a trophy fish.
Yeah, I know some guys that they look forward to that night fishing opportunity, that shallower water. Are we using plugs that have any glow to them or emit any kind of light or, UV? Obviously, it's nighttime, so it doesn't matter, but I would think plugs with glow or any type of, do you add any attractant like scent or anything?
We do play with a little bit of glow, but for the most part, walleye are such great nocturnal predators because of their eyesight. They got some of the best eyesight out there.
Right. And
they feel the vibration of the plugs. You don't need a lot of color to it. They can find it. They can see it.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
They throw the glow. There's some plugs out there that are lighted, but you got to be careful with lighted plugs because they can be too intense for a walleye, but it actually bothers them instead of attracts them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we'll play with scents for sure. I mean, there's a lot of bait fish and crawdads and different things. Garlic. For some reason, garlic in the pre-spawn can really get them going.
No kidding.
Just something to get them to trigger. Yeah.
You obviously own Northwest Bait and Scent. So what's your go-to if folks want to say, hey, I want to get some of that Northwest Bait and Scent and go after some walleye? Your garlic scent, or which one do you recommend?
I do like our garlic, the Gray Bill's garlic, and then also the Gray Bill's craw anise is kind of my go-to day in and day out for the walleye fishing.
Right. Okay, well, you're going to get cranking here in a couple weeks. The weather's starting to warm up just a little bit. We never really got into a deep freeze either here or over there on your side. So you got some openings and bookings coming up. People can get a hold of you and get in a seat.
For sure. March is a great time to really look into getting out, and we do have some days open. I got one more show I'll do in the middle of March, but definitely have a handful of days as we trickle through that month.
Great, and they can locate you or check out what you got going on at uppercolumbiaguide.com, or they can follow you on your Facebook page at Upper Columbia Guide Service, and they can also check you out Northwest Bait and Scent. That sound good?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, appreciate you taking some time tonight, Shane. I know you're busy with finishing your setup for your show through the weekend, and then one more the following weekend, and then you're off and running. Going to be looking forward to some pictures, and might even drag the boat over to the east side and join you alongside the boat there on the Columbia River chasing some walleye. And if I can't figure it out, I'll just tie a rope to you and follow you around and figure out what we're doing wrong. So anyway, appreciate you taking the time tonight, buddy. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Dwayne. You guys come hop on anytime.
All right, sounds good. All right, there we go. We resolved the issue.
Nice save. That's way easier.
Simply by putting the phone down. I'm just going to have to do that every week.
We don't need all this fancy equipment.
Fancy schmancy. What the heck? Couldn't figure it out. You know, I am about done with these technical issues. We got folks that are tuning in every week. These guys are a bunch of clowns.
Right.
Can't get this stuff straighhed out. But fortunately for us, that's the only phone interview we're going to do tonight because we got a lot of other content to get through. And that one will suffice. Good information from Shane in regards to walleye, and that is like he mentioned. And he and I have talked about this a few times. Him personally and a few other guys have kind of notched back on your retention limit. And at the end of the day, because the fish, it's almost like the kokanee phenomenon. When there's too many of them, they're small.
Right.
When you remove a certain percentage in that, they find that balance with enough feed to support. The few that are in there get bigger.
Yeah, and it's a tough spot because, I mean, a lot of these guides are salmon guides too. And so when you have the information coming out that these are predatory towards salmon smolt, it's a tough one. It's a tough, like, what do? Do you impact them in the way that WDFW, I think, hopes that they would be impacted with no limits, no size restriction, no nothing?
Yep.
Or you've kind of had to curb your business because of the slowdown in salmon to try to find other fisheries. And so do you try to have a little less impact to kind of elevate these fisheries? Like, man, what a tough time.
Well, here's where I'm at. When it comes to WDFW recognizing that as a predation issue, it's like, really? You're going to attack the walleye in the Upper Columbia? What about how many hundreds of thousands of birds that are consuming 70% of our steelhead smolt? How about let's get aggressive on pinniped removal from the Columbia River all the way out through Puget Sound and all the estuary waters of all the rivers dumping into Puget Sound and the tributaries into the Columbia, i.e. the lower Cowlitz, for example, Kalama. Those sea lions are freaking everywhere.
Right.
And you want to talk about the predation of salmon and steelhead smolt based on these recognized impacts from walleye and other warm water species. I'm saying leave those guys alone. Let's attack the bigger issues that are out here right in our backyard on the west side of the state, right?
Well, and that's where you see the frustration, especially from the guides, is man, the salmon run started to decline. I found another opportunity, and now the state wants to hammer that opportunity.
Take that one away from me too.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I win as a fishing guide in the Northwest?
Well, hats off to those guys recognizing they got a good thing going.
Right.
They don't want to see it go away. They're taking it upon themselves to monitor the activity. Now, for recreational guys, when you go over there,
Yep.
I mean, do I really need more than 4 or 5 walleye per person in my boat in the cooler? First of all, you got to fillet them all.
Right.
And if you're going to fish for a couple days, a couple day possession limit of walleye over there, let's say we got 3 people in the boat,
Right.
and we get our 15 fish each day and go home, that's pretty good fishing.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good fish for in the freezer. And if you go over there and take advantage, and we'll talk about it much more as the season progresses, but there's some phenomenal triploid opportunity, some fantastic kokanee opportunity, and then you throw in an afternoon of some walleye. Each day you're out there in the water, you're actually collectively filling your cooler with a pretty good abundance of fish.
Right.
Versus one salmon.
Right.
Right? One damn salmon. So there is some opportunities out there. If you don't know how to go after these walleye, and especially different times of the year, like maybe you've gone over there in the spring and have found success, but you haven't really gone over there right at the tail end of winter and just before we delve into the spring option, and this cold water fishery like Shane is talking, the pre-spawn, it's behoove you to book a trip with a guide like him, get over there, kind of get it laid out for you so you understand what you're doing, then go spend the money on the gas and the hotels and stuff. Go over there knowing you have some confidence to find success in the new type of fishery that you're targeting. All right, moving on. Barnum, we're going to kick out a recipe of the week. We've been kind of bouncing around, not getting that in every week because of sportsman shows and everything. Chef Kelly is back from being out there and killing birds for months on end. And we have a bunch of new segments we're going to be filming here in a couple weeks. But this is one that we premiered here quite some time ago. Not a lot of folks saw it because, quite frankly, we have a lot more people tuning in now. Yeah. And it's Cioppino Seafood, which is fantastic because right now we're on the forefront of, we're going to be getting into spring here. Yep. We got some Lingcod openers will be happening in March. We'll roll into halibut opportunities and bottom fish and all those things. You're probably stuffing some clams and some crab and stuff in your freezer. This is the time of year as we get towards the latter part of winter to start pulling some of that stuff out of your freezer. And instead of making individual meals out of it, Chef Kelly takes a handful of different items and puts them into this Cioppino stew. And let me tell you, man, when we had this, it was flat out amazing. Yes, it was one of my favorite dishes. It is really good. Yeah. So don't go anywhere. Be sure to stay tuned for this recipe of the week. Seafood Cioppino with Chef Kelly and Sherry in the kitchen. We come back right here on FHN. At least I thought we're going to jump to it. Yeah, so we got to get to the video, unless it's not going to go, Josh. He was telling me we're still live. We are still live. Okay, well, we can talk about a couple other things. Yeah. Can we go to commercial break? No. We can't. Well, this is going to be difficult.
We're just live.
Yeah, we're just live all night. We are on the phone.
I can do a weather report.
You got it spooled up?
Can we do it? I don't know if we can pull up the screen. No, we can't. Oh. I have it spooled up, but we can't pull up that screen.
Yeah, can we, Josh, can we switch to this screen here for weather? No?
No, we are locked out.
We lost everything. This is good. This is great. Well,
look, let's talk about what's coming up, Dwayne. Tomorrow, Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. How are you spending it?
Working.
Working?
Yep.
So you're not going to go down and hit the Smelt opener?
So there is. We'll jump onto that page next year. We have a Smelt opportunity, which we haven't had for a bit of time. Have you gone after Smelt before?
I have lots. Used to do it all the time, especially when sturgeon fishing was opening. We used to eat a lot of sturgeon.
For bait?
Yep.
But do you eat them too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger, my dad he'd slit them open, take the guts out, and then he'd run a coat hanger through their eyes, and then he'd hang them up in the smokehouse and just smoke them like that.
There you go.
We ate them ate them like jerky.
Yeah. Bill Herzog, who a lot of us know, loves to fry them up in bacon grease. That was his thing.
No, yeah, delicious.
Deep fry them in bacon grease, right?
And the cool thing about Smelt is the bone structure is so small for the most part, you almost don't even have to worry about the bones.
So the interesting thing is that we do have a Smelt opener tomorrow, Friday, Valentine's Day. Take your sweetie smelting is the MO. Take your sweetie smelting, right?
Right.
And yes, JR, they do make great bait.
Yes.
Portion of the Cowlitz River is open for dip netting one day 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Right.
You get a 5-hour window.
Right, which is not uncommon. That's kind of what they've been doing the last couple years with the opener.
It was just more than one day.
Right, and the frustration of many of the posts that I saw online with the fact that it was a weekday. So not only is it just
why couldn't it be Saturday morning?
Right.
You're going to do one day. That was the biggest, then that's the discussion I want to have is why not? What's wrong with Saturday morning?
Right.
Do we feel like we're going to impact the 4.2 million pounds of smelt that returned? Well, that was the 2019 number, but they did their commercial test net fisheries. They feel like there's ample abundance to conduct a fishery.
Right.
But why not a Saturday morning fishery and give people opportunity to get their kids out? Right. Go experience the smelting as you did with a kid.
Yeah, if you're worried about the impact, maybe cut it to 4 hours instead of 5. I don't know, but at least on a Saturday morning.
But that is the crux of the whole deal, is that it's on a Friday and a lot of people aren't going to have access to that. Right. And then the other thing you got to be cognizant of, the biggest mistake folks make is you are allowed 10 pounds.
Right.
People look at a 5-gallon bucket and they go, well, I just need to fill up these 2 5-gallon buckets, and that's probably, no. 10 pounds is about 1 to 1.5 dips of your net, depending on how big your net is.
Yeah, depending on what you're getting on the dip. Yeah.
So it's about a third.
A third of a bucket.
A third roughly. Of a 5-gallon bucket. Right. And if you take more, the WDFW enforcement is there, and they will be watching the entire deal to ensure that folks aren't leaving with over harvest, which has been a problem in the past. Then they confiscate it and they give you warnings and whatnot, but. So be cognizant of exactly what you're taking.
Yeah, and here's a little tip. If you're using it for bait, like if you're going to use it for sturgeon bait later on in the spring fishery for sturgeon on the Columbia, what I always did was we would take that third of a bucket. We'd definitely make sure the smelt were slightly covered with water. And then in the transport home, most of the male smelt would milk out. Right? I mean,
seriously?
So it ends up being this milky
I guess
because
they are pre-spawn, right?
Right, because they're headed up to spawn.
Right.
So the bucket would turn into this milky mix of smelt and milky water, right?
Yep.
And so when we would freeze the smelt for bait, we would take a dozen or so smelt, put in a bag, and we would take a scoop of that milky water and pour over the top and freeze them in that. 2 things: stop freezer burn, but I think that extra milky puts a little better sin on the bait, and we were highly successful with our smelt. Over the top of the guys that I know that were, for a lack of a better term, dry packing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
makes sense. Yeah. And they hold up, and then you're fishing those next season anyway, so it's not like they're in there for more than a few months.
We were, this time of year, we're going down in February and dipping, and then we were fishing them a lot of times fresh. I mean, that's when we could fish a lot of the estuary rivers, all year.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, we were fishing them, a lot of them fresh, never frozen, but even the frozen ones in that, in that mixture. And then they'd sit in the bag all day long while we were fishing in that mixture.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Let's jump ahead to some other things we had coming up second hour. We're actually in the second hour. We can't take a commercial break, so we're just going to remain here live and just kind of just roll with it, man. So I'm really, Barnum, I'm about ready to just pull the plug on the whole deal. Every week we got technical issues, and I don't understand what's going on with our system as of late, but it's very frustrating. Was on the phone with the folks again tonight trying to sort it out. But hey, you guys are hanging in there. I appreciate everybody sticking around. So let's talk about, we mentioned the smelt, take your sweetie smelting. Lingcod openers coming up second Saturday of March. Yeah. All 4 ocean areas. I mean, don't let that one sneak up on you. Start getting those boats ready. If you haven't, if you didn't, if you winterized your boat, great. But it's almost about that time to start pulling everything together, so that you are ready, not last minute, to get on these Lingcod openers. Which the nice thing about that, once you get that opener in March, it goes till October 31st.
Yeah, and it's great. Yeah, and for the most part, like we've talked about in the past, I mean, you don't have to run 20, 30 miles offshore to catch lingcod.
No.
Like, there's plenty of lingcod.
Doesn't it surprise you, or it's amazing to me, the amount of pressure that lingcod fisheries can sustain for the length of season. When you're talking March to October, that's even longer than your lowland lake opener for trout, which are all planted. I get that. But we're talking about a fishery that sustains well enough limits of 2 lingcod through that entire season every day of the week. Right,
and they've taken off the size restriction as of late. So I mean, if you catch it, you can keep it for the most part. And there's a lot of the rock piles that I fish that are real close. We're talking 7 to 10 miles that I know get hammered by the commercial, by the charter fleet. and yet we go
You're
out
still
there
finding your fish.
Yeah, consistently.
Well, and here's the beauty. Your brand new Lamaglass Lingcod rod is sitting right over there.
Wait. I actually, before the show, I pulled it out and oh yeah, that's what I was looking
So we will we'll be delving into all the how-tos and get you ready for Lingcod season as we roll into the first week of March or so. So you're not caught off guard. You got plenty of time to get ready. We're talking different bait options, jigging, different types of rods, weight systems, things that you can do to get ready for it. So, all right, Josh, looks like we're up and ready to go. We're going to jump out for a quick commercial break. Again, don't go anywhere. Sit on through this recipe of the week, this seafood cioppino. It's fantastic. You'll be glad you took notes on this one because it is one you can start digging in your freezer, pull out a bunch of stuff, and make this seafood cioppino. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So don't go anywhere. Sit through the commercial recipe of the week. We come back right here on FHN.
Allied boats are built by West Coast fishermen for West Coast fishermen. Deep V 21-degree dead rise at the transom guarantees a smooth ride no matter the conditions. Allied offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Allied boats range from 19 to 32 foot in length, so no matter what type of heavy gauge boat you are looking for, we have it for you. All of our Corsair 21 foot and larger designs come standard with reverse chine that is welded inside and out with no extrusions below the waterline, so that you will never have to worry about corrosion problems down the road. Get out on the water today in a boat that you can trust and enjoy with Allied Boats. Contact us at Allied Boats today to learn much more about our incredible fishing machines.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're here in the kitchen with Chef Kelly for the recipe of the week. And what do we have going this week?
We're going to make a cioppino seafood stew.
Seems like a whole lot of something.
Well, you know, I was going through my freezer and I'm like, I got to start using some of this stuff because I'm piling up all kinds of different stuff. You know, we're going into crab season. We have, you know, I had found some squid from squidding back in December. Yeah, let's make a cioppino.
All right.
You know, this is a good one, probably in the wintertime, but, you know, let's try it in the summertime too. So, all right, so get started. I want to have a garnish with a little bit of toasted bread. So we're going to throw that in the oven and get that going.
Okay.
Okay, so, all right, so we have a hot pan going right here. Gonna get a little oil in there. Get that started. Okay. We're gonna throw in about a quarter of a yellow onion. Julianne, get that sauteing up.
Just your regular, everyday onion.
Yes, I know.
According to the cashier, right?
The lady at the store was like,
Checkout.
what kind of onion?
Regular.
Regular? No, there's Maui onions too.
We come with like 10 of them in a bag. Yep. So that was about a half a cup.
Yeah, you know, about, you know, a quarter of a small onion. You know, however onion you want. Yeah,
however you want to say it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to add a little bit of garlic. So I like a lot of garlic. Let's say this is going to be about a tablespoon and a half. Really heavy on the garlic.
Wow.
I know.
We like our garlic.
Yes. Well, no.
So is this kind of one of those that you just kind of throw in whatever you want in there, Chef?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is, there's no rules, true rules to cioppino.
Okay.
if you have mussels available, great. If you don't, whatever. I happen to dig some. These had a lot of barnacles on them, so it takes a little time to kind of clean them off. So, it's, what do you want to deal with, right? Okay, so now we're going to deglaze with about a half cup of white wine.
Okay. Deglaze.
Deglaze.
Yes.
Okay. I did a little no-no right there. In that, when you're adding white wine, try to add it off the flame, okay? Because it can light on fire in front of you, and it can might catch the bottle. I've seen bottles explode in hands before, so it's,
Well, at least you corrected yourself and let people know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have our white wine reducing away right there.
Doesn't take long. That was a very hot pan.
Right. I'm going to add a pinch of chili flakes. It's not as spicy, but it's a little, yeah. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of clam juice to it.
Oh, clam juice.
Yeah. If you'd made fish stock, like I have a little pot of fish stock starting already over here. That'd be great to add too if you don't want to get some clam juice. But either one is great. I just kind of prefer clam juice myself personally.
Okay.
Okay.
And you can just get that anywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's simmering away, getting it reduced. Okay, now we can start adding our fish. So we have some Lingcod here.
Okay.
Here, I'm going to add probably about 4 ounces of Lingcod. Some of my favorite fish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a little bit of halibut. Halibut season was amazing this year, and so we have lots of that.
For sure. Yeah, we have a freezer full.
Right?
Yeah.
So
thank you.
You could take care of that. Okay, so I diced them, fairly on the small side, so so they'll cook fairly quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so then we're going to add about a cup of diced tomatoes.
Is that just the canned diced tomatoes?
Yes, it's the canned diced tomatoes. I might add a little more, so let's hold on to that guy a little bit.
All right.
Okay.
I won't take it away.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're starting to look like Cioppino now.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to add a little fresh tomatoes too. Just give a little fresher flavor to it.
What was that? Oh, fresh tomatoes.
Yeah, fresh diced tomatoes.
And like you said, it's basically whatever you want in this.
Yeah,
right?
I'm adding a little bit of fresh oregano.
That sounds good.
Right? Then we're just going to add in our clams and our mussels. All right. Let's put a lid on this thing. Oh, make sure you also season this. So, yes, the clams and mussels are going to give up a little bit of salt, but they don't give enough salt to just not do it. So I'm adding a little bit of kosher salt.
All right.
A little bit of fresh ground black pepper. Okay. I'm just going to put a lid on this thing and just let it simmer away. So originally, Cioppino came from San Francisco, and it was a kind of a fisherman's stew that they would just kind of throw in whatever they had. It came from, this is the rumor about it, was that it was like all the fishermen would gather around, like, hey, I'm getting a stew. Hey, what do you have to chip in? Cioppino. So
potluck stew.
Yeah, so
all fish and seafood though.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, anything you want. There's no rules to this. If you had, your razor clams,
yeah,
that'd be a good thing to throw in there. All kinds of, delicious things here we can use.
Okay. Here, right in the Northwest.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have that simmering away.
Was that just a baguette you put in there?
Yeah, I just have a baguette here, just toasting away. Those are done.
Just some olive oil and garlic on there?
Yeah, and a little bit of salt.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Those are perfect.
Yes. And so you'll notice that, we also have squid here available here in the Northwest. And so you don't have to just fry them. We can make a stew out of them too. But make sure that you add them at the last second to make sure that we are not overcooking it. Because squid's one of those, if you cook it 30 seconds, it's perfect. Any more than that, it starts to get chewy.
So you just bought that at the store?
No, I jigged these.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we have squid available here.
No wonder I didn't see you get them at the store.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we have amazing squid. I know. Well, I mean, it was tough. So this year was a little bit different. I'm used to really getting a quick limit, and it was a struggle.
Oh, okay.
They're a little bit on the small side, but I think they're delicious, and I think they're well worth it. And it's just a hoot. It's a great thing to bring the kids.
You corrected me pretty quick there, Chef. I don't blame you. Aren't the squid kind of big around here too?
No, they're
small
tiny,
ones?
tiny.
Boy, I just don't have it correct at all.
You have to go with me sometime. It's a hoot.
All right.
I brought my daughter along, and she had a great time with it. And
I bet that was fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Harper would go crazy the way she loves fishing. Yep. Can't wait to get her out there more.
All right. So another thing that's there's another seafood stew out there. It's called bouillabaisse, and people have questions about bouillabaisse in that it's kind of the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's Cioppino is kind of more chunky with lots of tomatoes in it, and bouillabaisse has its own flavor profile. And the other thing is that in San Francisco we have a lot of Dungeness crab, just like we have. Here, and so it's. I think it's essential that you have Dungeness crab in it. It's that signature of that area, and so the other thing is that a lot of people will take their Dungeness crab and they throw whole, legs and claws and all that stuff in there. I don't know if you ever try to do that when it's all soupy and nasty. You're just like, you're like, dude, this is a mess.
Yeah.
So I always. So and another thing is that when you're freezing your crab, it's better to just process it, and then you have it as usable for crab cakes, for that stuff. So I pulled out.
And it's nice for us wives just to grab it out of the freezer.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we're going to add our Dungeness crab. It's still going to make it in there, but we're using crab meat. Okay. All right. And we're done. See, our clams are all opened up.
Look at that.
Oof. There you go. We're going to add a little bit of parsley, give it a little bit of color, and a lot more parsley. Right? And then we're going to check for our seasoning.
All good.
All good. Well, let me just a little touch more salt.
Okay.
See how it's saying, like some people say, oh well, no, you're going to get plenty of salt from the clams and the mussels. Not really.
You can't count on it.
Right. Now, if you wanted to go more heavier on the tomato and added some tomato sauce to it, you absolutely could. So I don't like mine too heavy on the tomato sauce. So
yeah, me either.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of personal preference.
It smells incredible.
Right.
As usual.
So if you want to build this nicely, we'll arrange the clams and mussels here.
All right. Do you need a spoon or anything? No?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean when you're cooking, you kind of get creative with tongs. Yeah.
Yep. Whew. Smell.
There you go.
Aroma. All right.
You ever dig clams?
Need more of this?
No, don't need that anymore. You ever dig clams?
I have not, actually.
It's fun for the kids. I did that with my daughter last year, and it was awesome. Like my daughter this year was like, "We're going to go dig clams." Well, yeah, she couldn't quite make it this year. She was so bummed. It was kind of funny. It was just kind of an off thing. It was like an added bonus, but she just loved getting in the in the dirt, in the sand and stuff.
Yeah, I think on a former recipe of the week, the razor clam, I had said to Dwayne that we needed to go take Harper.
Right.
Must have been busy. We've been a little busy.
Oh yeah. So season your crab too, because it needs a touch of salt, and I'm adding just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil to it. Okay. Wow. Add our crab to it, just like that.
My goodness, chef.
Add our baguette. And we're done, guys. See how quick it is?
Wow.
Gorgeous cioppino. And it's a great one pot kind of a thing,
Yeah.
I mean, you can make a lot for everybody, and you just kind of go through all your freezer.
And that's a fun concept, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody just bring what they have.
Yeah, exactly.
And throw it in a community pot.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Okay. Chef, while we go ahead and start enjoying that, we're going to throw it back to you guys in the studio.
Awesome.
Yes.
Hey, it's keto friendly too. You ready?
I know it.
Oh, no bread.
No bread.
That's right.
All right.